Radio Manchester, it is 8 minutes past 10 and that was Martha Reeves and the Vandellas dancing in the street, something that my next guest can do now, although I'm not sure if she does, but we'll find out whether or not she dances in the street, because less than a year ago, I'm not sure I should say how old you are, that's a bit rude that, am I allowed? Go on in, right? 31. Natalie Kerr, she doesn't look it, was given just weeks to live. The nurse who worked at the Royal Bolton Hospital was desperately in need of a double lung transplant after being diagnosed with a life-threatening heart and lung disease shortly after the birth of her second child. Now, a year later, and 2 new lungs later, she's been able to pick up her children and play with them for the first time in nearly 5 years. Well, I'm pleased to say that Natalie, as you could hear, and her dad, Eric, joined me in the studio. So have you tried dancing in the street yet?
Yeah.
Yeah? You little monkey,
I dance anywhere, I dance in the supermarket.
Good for you. So explain how ill you were then.
Really, really poorly. Basically, I had pulmonary hypertension, which is narrowing of the blood vessels in the lungs. That puts a strain on your heart and it makes you unable to breathe, unable for the blood and the oxygen to get around the body. So I was on oxygen a lot of the time. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't get up the stairs. I was blue, my lips were blue. I was really, really poorly. I was to the point where I was passing out as well because my heart wasn't coping.
Because it's like a short circuit, doesn't it? The body says, right, we're not getting enough of this, so right, shut down.
Yeah, and it was happening more and more towards the end. So it was horrible, really, yeah.
Awful for you, Dad, to sit and watch that.
It was. It was a long struggle. We had to put on a brave face. As a parent, you know, what you do is you put on a brave face for
but you wait until
kids
at the end of the day when you can shut the door and let it all...
Well, it is stressful. It's a miracle how we didn't have a breakdown, because it was a long struggle where we had to really be there for Natalie 24/7. We were with her every day, all the way through with it, weren't we?
Yeah.
Therefore, yeah, it was a hard struggle. And to be honest, you know, it was like an automatic pilot sort of stuff, just things happened because we wanted to help your daughter. As a parent, you do, don't you? And you just want to help.
So you knew you were going to need a transplant, I'm assuming someone said at some stage. And then, of course, I'm assuming you then had the wait to find out if someone suitable was going to come forward.
Yeah, you go on you have the assessment for transplant, and then the doctors have to discuss your case and make sure you're ill enough for a transplant, but well enough.
Awful, isn't it?
Yeah, but well enough to survive the operation. And they tell you all the risks and things like that, but I had no other choice. I was so poorly. Transplant was the light at the end of the tunnel, and just kept thinking about getting better. And I went on the transplant list in October 2011, 21st of October, and I was waiting for 17 weeks, which was very, very lucky.
I was to say, that's a really quick turnaround.
But I think it goes off your height as well, and because I'm quite tall for a girl, I could have had a man's lungs as well, so I'm not a very rare blood group, so for those out there that are a rare blood group, they obviously wait a longer time.
So 17 weeks, what did you have to do whilst you were waiting? Because I'm assuming they've got to keep you in that fine line between being fit enough to undergo the surgery. What did you do while you were waiting?
Well, there wasn't much really we could do, was there? Just, I was sleeping a lot of the time. I was getting more and more poorlier towards the end. Just kept waiting, just made sure my mobile phone was charged and with me at all times, and just kept looking at my phone thinking, please ring every single day. You just have to wait, my bag was ready.
Turning into a nervous wreck.
I know, every time I went out of signal I was like, oh no, just put my phone in the air. You just have to wait. And
she's very strict on herself, Natalie, because she tends to take her medicine correctly, and she looked after herself, you know, and yeah, so it was a waiting game for us, and like our lives just stood still, more or less, you know, and just waiting. It was
tough, like you say, because not only are you a parent, then you're also a grandparent, and you're a parent.
Yeah.
So to be able to try and continue some sort of normal life with the children must be really difficult as well.
Well, when I went on the transplant list on the 21st of October, obviously I got ready for Christmas then, made sure I had all the presents, everything was wrapped, did things like writing my will and getting everything
Sorry,
in place.
there's not many people use a sentence like made sure the presents were wrapped and wrote the will.
I know. It's just had to be done. You know, I had to make sure if anything was to happen, the children were okay and everything was in place.
How much did they understand about what was going on? Have they always grown up with you being quite poorly, so they
Well,
didn't
Brandon,
realise?
Isabel doesn't really know. She's only 4, nearly 5. But Brandon, he's been a good boy. He's been really, really good with me being ill, and I think.
And you're not just saying that because
No.
he's sitting twiddling on a chair in the corner of the studio.
He's a
Mum
very good
thinks
boy.
you're a good boy, Brandon. Is that all right with you? He's nodding. It's very quiet.
He's been such a good
Oh,
boy.
he says his mouth's zipped. He's not going to say a word.
He's really helped me, and I think he loves his mum. He's been a good boy.
Has he?
Been through a lot, bless him.
It's tough when your mum's sick, isn't it, Brandon? It's really hard because, you know, mum's always there when you're poorly and then you don't know what to do. It does look like
He's
a
been
bad
through
lad.
things he shouldn't have had to go through, really, which is not. It's just life, though, isn't it? At the end
Absolutely.
of the day.
And everybody goes through things that they wouldn't choose to go through if they had a chance, but it just makes you who you are. So the operation then happened at the beginning, 17 weeks. Where are we now? We're beginning of last year?
Yeah, it was the 17th of February when I got my new lungs. So it's coming up for 1 year nearly now.
Now that whole procedure, you make it sound like, well, I just went into the supermarket, I got my new lungs, and then it's fine.
It was not.
Dad, I was going to say, Dad, what was it like for you waiting for her to come out of surgery?
It was a nightmare. Well, prior to that, me and my wife celebrated our wedding anniversary on the 16th. We went away.
It's my son's birthday.
Well, we were in London,
Yeah.
and she gets the call that very
Oh, while you were away?
Yeah.
Of course you get no notice at all, do
No,
you?
you just have to go and they ring you.
She gets a call that night, and she rings me up on the phone, and I don't take nothing for a joke where she's concerned, and straight away, and it was about 9:45 at night, and a train, the last train from London back to Manchester was 10 o'clock. Well, straight away, get your bags packed, and then we rushed to the train station, going, that train could not
Did
go
you
fast
pay the hospital? Did you pay the hotel bill before you left?
Well, fortunately enough, I took an extra protection.
Right, I'm just checking. I'm sorry, gotta go. There's a train waiting and there's surgery. I mean, I haven't used that excuse for doing a runner, but I might try it in the future. So you had it all
charged me,
sorted.
they're really good.
Oh, bless 'em.
So, lucky enough, I got away with that. Got the train back. The train wasn't going fast enough. I mean, it was doing 120 miles per hour, really.
What's going through your head, you and your
Really
wife, when
just,
you're sat on that train?
Well, if you think you're travelling train, it's your daughter, you're heading there just to be with her, you want to get there like now.
Absolutely.
You're on a train, the train's going fast, and yet it's not going fast, it's only going slow. And to make things quicker, we walked a few coaches to
Did you?
front of the train.
Oh, you didn't.
Yeah, sat on the driver's knee.
Oh my God.
Come on, son, put your foot down.
Yeah, move. I'll drive.
But at the same time of being, you know, anxious obviously to be with her, you must have also been anxious that actually what she was about to undergo was either going to change her life or it not be that successful.
Well, could have gone either way, definitely.
So good
But
on one part that she's going to get the help.
Never, all through her illness and all through the process of the transplant, we never looked in the negative way. We always were positive for Natalie, for the kids. It had to be that way, you know. And we don't know what Natalie went through physically, because she actually went through it. We just consoled her and comforted her. That's all we did.
To be fair though, she had quite a lot of drugs to get her through it and you
Oh,
didn't.
yes, a lot, yeah.
You just had cups of coffee and things.
We did. We needed counselling, but we didn't get that.
No, but I think anyone who watches a loved one being ill, it needs some sort of support at the end of it, because you have all those different emotions, don't
We
you? You
had
have
a lot
guilt
of support, I must say. We had a lot of support from friends, from work colleagues, and my employers. They were amazingly good to me. You know, I can't really say they haven't, because they did. They gave me plenty of time off. They were very understanding to me, and they knew all about Natalie's plight, and you know, they supported me.
So Mum and Dad are on a train, heading back up here as fast as Virgin Transport will carry them.
Yeah.
What's going through your mind as you're sorting out your bag the night before?
Well, I'd had my bag already, so when she rang me, the transplant coordinator, she knew I was all ready, and I was just shaking. I wasn't scared though, I was excited. First thing was to ring the kids because it was getting late and they were going to go to bed, and I thought if I get this transplant I won't be able to speak to them again because they'll be in bed. So I rung them and said bye, and it wasn't really a bye, it was more like see you when I've got new lungs. And,
because although that might be at the back of your mind, you can't possibly say that to them.
I didn't want to say bye, I just said I'll see you when I've got new lungs. And then the ambulance came for me, and I was trying to tell everybody I'm going for my new lungs, and I just had a feeling when I was going that it was going to happen, because you can go and for some reason something could be wrong and you don't get your transplant.
You're not 100% well enough to
so
take the
they'd warned me beforehand. You might go and it might not be right. But I had a feeling that it was going to happen. And when I left the house, I remember thinking, I'm not coming back here until I've got my new lungs. So off I went, and I was just more excited really than anything.
All right, well, we'll talk some more about the surgery. We're up to the night before, following a proper timeline here. And obviously we can see it had a positive end, a positive conclusion, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting here. But we'll talk some more about it, and maybe talk about the importance of the organ donor register as well, which I always feel quite strongly about. Well, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So we will get an update.
Faces first just go steep. Turn the wider shade of pale. Said there is no reason, and the truth is plain to see.
Purple harem and a whiter shade of pale, which you could say pretty much described our guest maybe a year ago, according to Dad at least, with the being very, very pale and looking very poorly. We're talking about double lung transplant success, which is always nice when you talk about success. Natalie Kerr from Bolton and Dad Eric joins us in the studio. We were talking just before we went to the travel news about the night before you went to surgery and the ambulance turning up to cart you away, so to speak. Once you got to hospital, was it fairly swift, your process up to getting into surgery?
When I got to hospital, it was pretty quiet really. It was night time, so everybody was in bed, and they just ran some tests, they did some bloods, they sent me for a chest x-ray, and then it was a waiting game really. I was waiting for the surgeons to go out to the donor to have a look at the lungs. So I just got onto the bed and slept, and it was about 5:30 in the morning when they actually came to me and said the lungs are good and we're going to theatre. And at that point it was literally 2-3 minutes and I was in theatre.
Wow.
So you don't have time to think, hold on, don't want to do this. You just go. So I quickly texted Brandon, told him I loved him, and said bye and stuff, and then said bye to Mum and Dad. And
so you'd got up there by that stage, having insisted on the train driver putting his foot down.
We got there about 1 o'clock in the morning, just in time. And while we were waiting, we caught about 10 minutes nap as well with Natalie. Spoke to the nurses, and they went through the process of what's going to happen, and how, where we're going to go for while we're waiting for the operation.
How long were you in surgery for, do you know?
I think it was about 8 hours, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's a long time.
That
must be awful, 8 hours for you and Mum.
It was, certainly was. The hospital at Wythenshawe, the staff there are just absolutely marvellous. They know exactly what to do, how to treat people. What they did to us, they give us a spare room at the bottom where we had a bed. My wife had a book, she was reading a book. I don't know if she was reading the book or just looking at it.
Just going through the pages, absolutely.
I was on my phone, but trying to rest, pacing up and down, just wanted to know things by the minute, how she was doing. It was a bit of a long wait, with us having come back from London as well. We were just tired, but we couldn't sleep, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Your adrenaline's pumping and you want to know what's going on, and you just end up pacing.
Yeah.
So you were out for the count for 8 hours.
Yeah.
How long before you were allowed to go home?
The Friday, it was the Friday that I had the operation, and they woke me up on the Saturday evening, and then it was 3 weeks that day, 3 weeks on the Saturday that I went home.
It's not bad.
No, I was in intensive care for about 5 days, and then onto the transplant ward for say 2.5 weeks or so, and then I was allowed home, which is not the record time for being discharged, but
I hope you didn't have records at the back of your mind when you started all this.
No. I just wanted to get home and
See the kids.
get out of hospital. 3 weeks is a long time, but I suppose when you've had major chest surgery, you've got to do what you're told and listen to.
Now you look as fit as a flea now, which is amazing, and just fantastic. Even Dad looks like he's had a couple of hours sleep since.
Thank you.
If you could, what would you say to the person whose lungs you received?
It's really hard to say, because you say thank you and it doesn't sound like enough. It really doesn't. But if she could see us, can see the smiles on the kids' faces, and every single day see me doing things and smiling to myself just when I'm doing little things that I couldn't do before, I'm sure she'd be really happy watching down.
And you know it's a she, do you?
Yeah, I was told she was a lady. Just thank you so much, because I wouldn't be here without her. And I'm constantly on Facebook saying thank you to her when I've done certain things, and I bet people are sick of me now, and she'd probably be sick of me saying thank you every day nearly.
Oh, well, you could argue that not enough of us say thank you enough,
But
even to those people that are around
do
us.
mean it. She's giving me my life back.
And just because she signed on to the register.
Because of her, my children have got their mum. And we've just had a great Christmas, and we've hopefully got plenty more ahead of us.
What about you, Dad? What would you say to her?
They're always in our mind, and you know we're so grateful for them, because they have actually given us our daughter back. Anyone to sign the register, it's not you sign. It's a hard thing to think about when you're signing a register. People think about death and all that. Death's nothing, because really, if you die and you're buried, the organs just rot away. It's common knowledge, everyone knows that. If you're cremated, everything's burnt away. So it's really gone to waste, really.
It is the ultimate in recycling, isn't it, really?
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there on the waiting list who could really benefit from organ donations.
Because that was the thing, you were lucky because there weren't, excuse the phrase, there weren't many unique elements about your circumstances. You weren't a rare blood group, and the condition that you had, because like you said, you're very tall. You could have male or female. You were lucky to get the female, but not everyone's that lucky.
No.
And I suppose the more of us who get onto the register.
Well, there's something like 9,000 people waiting every year, and only 3,000 people get a transplant, and 1,000 people die every year waiting. Something like 3 people a day die waiting for a transplant. And it's so easy to just join up, and just don't overthink it. Just join and put it to the back of your mind. You can join by going on the website, which is www.organdonation.nhs.uk, or you can go into your doctor's surgery. They'll have forms in there if you don't have the internet.
And make sure that your loved ones know what your views are as well, so they don't have to make that decision.
Definitely. And
if you apply for a driving licence as well.
Yeah, you can put it on there.
On your Boots Advantage card, you can do it on there.
Oh, you've done your research, lovey, haven't you? Your Boots Advantage card. Thank you very much, both of you, for coming in. Thank you very much, Brandon. You've been he's just nodding in the corner. Very, very nice young man. And I will make sure that the links to the website for getting onto the organ donor register go on our Facebook page. So if you want to find out more, the information will be up there very, very shortly. It's Michelle Daniel on BBC Radio Manchester.